everybody. Welcome in. It is the Christmas edition of Darkness on the Edge of Town, Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. We're going to do things just like we did last year. What we are doing is some Victorian Christmas stories. We're going to bring in different friends. We're going to bring in, of course, our co-hosts. And we're going to do some different Christmas stories for you today. And I'm pleased to start off with a good friend, one of the best, as a matter of fact. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're bringing in from the Big 98 in Nashville, Tennessee, one of my good friends. He's got the Wayne D and Tay Podcast out there, which if you haven't heard it by now, then by gosh, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You can also hear him mornings on the Big 98 in Nashville. And if you're a Nashville Predators fan and you've been in-house for a game, then you've heard the best damned in-house announcer in the NHL. He was just in Sweden for the 2025 NHL Global Series over in Sweden when the Preds took on the Pittsburgh Penguins. And all that's happening with this man is that his star continues to rise. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Wayne D. Wayne, how you doing?
My boy, what a freaking intro.
I try.
If you're on my show, I'd be like, oh, my buddy Tim's here. What's up, Tim?
Yeah, I know. I just get, hey, Tim. Hey, what's up?
Side note, you know how you can tell it's the Christmas edition of the OG Darkness Radio here?
What's that?
I have a poinsettia with me.
Oh, look at that.
So,
see, I
little known fact about poinsettias.
Yeah.
I liked them when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
As I got older, I found myself liking them more. And I also learned as I got older, Elvis Presley's favorite flower was the poinsettia.
Really?
And so it's something I have in common with Elvis. That and we had the same waist size when he died as when I'm going to die. So.
Oh, no, come on now. No.
I have that late body style Elvis.
So do I. Yeah, I'm finding myself more and more like late Elvis. Yeah. But no, it's that's right. I did forget about the fact that he was huge into poinsettias. Yeah.
Yeah. Graceland still does a thing around the holidays where you can donate money for the poinsettias that they buy. Mm-hmm. And then really what they do is they buy the poinsettias and donate the rest of the money.
Oh, excellent. Oh, so there you go. There you go.
So there's a poinsettia on the desk here. So
nice.
Happy holidays. Yeah.
Well, hey, I got my my Santa pimp hat on, and I got Snoop on a Stoop on my microphone. So
I dig that. I dig that.
It's about as merry as I get. That's all you're getting out of me this year. That's about all you get out of me every year, but it's about all you get out of me this year. So we got a big show in store. Again, Victorian Christmas carols is the way we celebrate Christmas. Why, you may ask? Well, because in Victorian times, Victorian Christmas carols, Christmas stories, not Christmas carols. I am not singing. I don't know about you, Wayne, but I'm not singing.
Hey, listen, we'll see how the whiskey starts flowing and maybe by the end of this thing.
Maybe. But Victorian Christmas stories, reason being is that in olden times, I shouldn't even say in olden times, maybe 100 years ago, 125 years ago, they gathered around the Yule log and scared the crap out of each other. They didn't necessarily open gifts and revel in merriment. It was maybe you did 125 years ago, but I didn't. And Wayne's looking at me like, you were around then. You can tell me about it.
I didn't want to say it, but
yeah, you can. Go ahead. I'll let you make the crack.
I just did.
Okay. But it was a thing to sit around and as we know, it was a thing to sit around and often frighten with Victorian Christmas ghost stories back then. Although they were also sometimes meant to simply entertain and deliver a moral lesson on Christmas. Mm. Yes, you were meant to learn as well, Wayne. I'm sorry. We're going to do a little learning with our first one. Our first one is about Nicodemus.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to learn a little bit today.
Yeah, pronounce that a little slower, just in case.
Nicodemus? I have to be careful.
I'm just trying to avoid you getting canceled, man. It's 2025.
Well, yeah, especially on Christmas. You don't want to miss. Exactly. You don't want to slip on that Demas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah.
If you slip and land on the Demas, it's going to be a good night.
Well, that's what they say. Just make sure you put your Christmas stocking on it first. What did I say? So it's meant to, sometimes those stories were meant to entertain, deliver a moral lesson, or in this case, to elicit a laugh. They did have a sense of humor in Victorian times.
Oh.
We'll see. Right. We'll see how funny this Nicodemus story really is. This particular story, Nicodemus, is by Alfred Crowquill, a pseudonym of Alfred Henry Forrester, who lived from 1804 to 1872. It first appeared in Mary Elizabeth Braddon's popular illustrated monthly magazine, Belgravia's Christmas Annual, in 1867. So you know it ain't particularly new. The story of a bibulous reprobate monk who runs afoul of the spirit world, and it ends in a punchline, which the greatest of Victorian Christmas story ghostwriters, Charles Dickens, would surely have appreciated. So here we go. This is Nicodemus. I will not be doing voices. I will not be... I'll put some inflection in this way, and I'll give it a little effort, but yeah, no voices or anything like that. So if you're ready, here we go.
Listen.
What's that?
No voices. No. Hit me straight, my boy.
I'll hit you straight. So this is Nicodemus. My uncle, the vicar, was a facetious man with a good heart and a good cellar, as in wine cellar.
Okay, sure.
Who, when I first made his acquaintance, had two chins, he had two chins, which in course of time developed into three. But I must say,
in my life.
Yeah, right. You know what they say. I won't tell the joke. It's a bad one. Which in course of time developed into three. But I must say in justice to him that he did not forget to fatten his parishioners at that time, for no deserving person asked of him in vain, and his cook made the poor people's soup of a charming consistency. So that, take him for all in all, my uncle was a very good vicar, and never bothered his simple flock with his college metaphysics. As I have written, my uncle was a facetious man, and loved to have a sly thrust at his predecessors, the monks, who fish preserves were at the bottom of his garden, though not tenanted as formerly, but in the quiet possession of his choice brood of ducks, and the once noble abbey had resolved itself into a few cartloads of rubble and limestone, glimmering through the trees like a ghost that cannot leave the spot of its ancient glories or troubles. Beneath this ruin, my uncle, with a few old chums and us youngsters, would calmly smoke his pipe and sound the depths of a magnum or his double diamond port in the cool of the evening. The spot always seemed to inspire him with a storytelling faculty, and the legends, more or less connected with late inhabitants of the locality, tinged with the mild sarcasm of his character, would run on much to the delight of his audience. Upon one of these occasions, he would tell us the following veracious legend of Father Nicodemus, not remembered by the oldest inhabitants. And this is the legacy. Father Nicodemus, an unpromising name for such a saint-like character, was celebrated for the strength of his lungs. The choir, in fact, would have been weak without his basso profundo. You ever had a basso profundo by chance?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it again, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah,
that was painful.
Hurts the lungs, that's for sure. He was equally effective in the refectory. Be careful how you read the word refectory. Just saying. It comes up quick and it's hard to pronounce. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what your girl says too.
Yeah, that's it. Whoa. He was equally effective in the refectory. That's what she said. Where his stomach evinced a profound depth that was quite as astonishing. His power of drinking was never correctly ascertained, as such indulgence was not permitted within the sacred walls. But if you might judge by his nose, his outdoor amusements could not have been quite so innocent. But this, perhaps, was only scandal, as anyone great in any way is sure to be pelted with the mud of the envious and groveling. So I feel inclined not to dilate upon the color of his nose, of which there was not the slightest sign in the statue erected to his memory. Erected statues. We're onto something.
You start reading slower, I'm going to have an erected statue.
Sorry. Father Nicodemus did a great deal of outdoor work. He was a kind of ecclesiastical whipper-in and kept the ideal in shirking up to their duties. He was particularly attentive to the old and feeble who were without heirs. He always found excuses for their not attending chapel when they paid someone else qualified to do all that was necessary for them, and even went so far as to see after the final disposition of their property. He always appointing himself the executor and curator, so that he was the cause of many beautiful decorations in the chapel of his abbey, much to the admiration of the abbot and the fraternity, and also to the future benefit of the departed, whose heirs were never found. One old lady, who was the relict of a long ago departed miller of the Abbey Mills, knowing her husband's miller-like faculty of taking toll, most piously returned it tenfold through Father Nicodemus, who, good man, never mentioned it to anyone, and thereby the miller escaped much scandal. With this old lady, then, Father Nicodemus was an especial favorite, and the best of everything was saved for the happy occasions of his visits, which could not be too often. For if he received comfort, he brought comfort with him, and never departed empty-handed, for he always had a saint or two under expensive repair and drew the old lady's purse strings accordingly. If I didn't know better, I think I just read a double entendre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I took it, but
Yeah.
I'm also 12.
So am I. Now, this old lady, although she poo-pooed the little peccadillos of her late husband in the matter of toll, enjoyed without a twinge of remorse the sample proceeds thereof. And the mill being let to another, the temptation had departed with the tenancy, and she walked as uprightly as her age would allow her. Father Nicodemus knew that she had what was facetiously called a stocking, put by in some safe corner. Why a stocking, I have never been able to discover by the most unremitting antiquarian research. At all events, the old lady was her own banker, and Father Nicodemus was her principal accountant and dispenser. Gently and delicately did he handle the stocking, looking upon its contents as really his own, the possession being only delayed by the old woman's obstinate tenacity for life. At last, she became so feeble that he looked upon her flickering lamp as at the last flash. And one eventful evening, it flashed up indeed, to his astonishment, for the old lady, with a bright light in her eyes and power in her voice, gave him her last instructions clearly and distinctly, without hesitation or reservation, thus: that all her property in money and otherwise should be given after her decease and decent burial to her husband's poor relations and a faraway niece of her own, equally divided, as he would find it written on the flyleaf of an old account book, reserving and in duty bound a certain sum, also therein specified, for the benefit of the prayers of the whole fraternity of the abbey, with all their power ecclesiastical. Father Nicodemus, with a mental reservation, swore to perform all this, and the next morning at daybreak found him rummaging the old woman's eccentric hiding places and filling the pouch which hung under his cassock. He smiled as he patted the treasure, which materially interfered with his outline and eventually interfered with his peace of mind and comfort. Thus it fell out. The old lady being quietly disposed of, it struck Father Nicodemus that he might get permission to make a pilgrimage to some saint whose name had long been forgotten, thereby giving himself a better opportunity of enjoying the ill-gotten treasure and escaping the whispers of the foolish and profane that were rife about the supposed rich old woman dying so poor, not even leaving a legacy to the church of her adoption to pass through the hands of her old chum, Nicodemus. But as he never complained, what right had they? He shook his head and said nothing, but granted leave. The basso profundo departed on his way rejoicing. But the old woman's spirit did not rest. She resisted the unfair advantage taken of her by her old ecclesiastical crony, and, as they said in those days of superstition, could not rest in her grave, and she didn't. Father Nicodemus had proceeded some miles on his way, strengthened by the good wine that had hung at his girdle. He had a girdle? Wait a minute. Once the private property of his dear old departed friend, when he found himself towards evening in the depths of a thick wood, somber and melancholy as such places are in the twilight. A slight moaning wind tended very much to increase the dreariness of this. He hurried on, but the night overtook him in his very midst, so that, like a blind man, he had to feel his way with his staff. How many times have you had to do that, Wayne? Just feel your way with your staff? I'm just curious.
You know, it's never pointed me in the wrong direction. I'll tell you that.
It's good to know. Good to know. I hear it's a mighty staff at that.
It's average.
Average? Okay. So your reputation doesn't precede you. The thick undergrowth twined around his legs and precipitated him amidst the briars and knocked his naked shins against the gnarled roots. Here, you've had a night or two like that, too. We are not the same guy, I'll tell you that.
We're
not the same guy? No. He did not swear, but his deep bass voice growled forth his discontent in no very amiable manner, which perhaps, after all, was his way of blessing himself. In the midst of his misery, just as he had picked himself up after an unpleasant fall, a light intensely bright suddenly burst through the darkness. "The moon," said he, congratulating himself a little too soon. What was it? It was an unmistakable apparition of a suit of clothes, long worn by the deceased miller's wife. There stood her crutch stick, but no hand leant upon it for support. There was her shoe, but no foot in it. There was her well-worn velvet hood, but not, hold, was it her face? No, it was not that, but it was a refulgent light with a frightful, but I do not think it was ever certainly ascertained what he saw. Suffice to say that it was something very unpleasant, which made him tremble like a large blancmange. His flesh crawled, and his marrow became like ice when a voice sepulchrally solemn addressed him in the following unladylike manner: "You forsworn rascal, return the money that you have in your scrip, or I will never leave you, but throw a light phosphoric upon your path wherever you go. And I know now that your actions will not always bear the light. So refund, robber, before I strip you of your sanctimonious character and leave you exposed to the sneers of the world and expelled from the community, you disgrace." As the whatever it was finished speaking, it faded from the old sinner's horror-stricken sight. Father Nicodemus wouldn't believe it, yet his heartbeat and the trembling had not left him. He sang no more, but hurried on until he tore his cassock and scratched his face most woefully. At last he gained a clearer path and came in sight of a hostelry. He made it towards it without the slightest hesitation, although it might be thought by straight-laced people that it was not exactly the place for a holy father, but his fear made him oblivious of trifles. But just as he sneaked into the porch, a bright light was shed upon him that made him as distinctly seen as at noonday. He turned and saw the horrid hood and phantom beams. He uttered a groan and rushed in for companionship. And the ribald riot of the motley crew, not the motley crew, but, the motley crew in possession, was not hushed at his appearance, which was none of the most favorable. When he issued from the hostelry again, it was deep in the night. There was an uncertainty in his gait that spoke of the pottles deep. He felt his condition and congratulated himself upon the favorable cover of the darkness. But whenever he approached a village, the persevering hood appeared and lighted his path, much to his annoyance and the amusement of the villagers, who jumped out of their beds to see the cause of it. And it beheld the worthy Father Nicodemus taking both sides of the way, for the simple reason that one of his legs would not stand by the other, the melancholy consequence of which was that he was brought to a standstill in the midst of a slough just deep enough to engulf him up to his armpits. Here he lustily roared, while the hood shed its illumination round the spot, that the people, hurrying to go to the rescue, might see the convivial priest like a toad in a hole. At the first blush of morning, which blushed more than usual as the dirty and draggled priest left the roof that had sheltered him for the night, poor Nicodemus turned his steps homeward in hopes that the sanctity of its roof would defend him against the visitations of the horrid specter, and that, with all the tools about him, he might be able to exorcise the troublesome spirit into the very depths of the Red Sea. So, cheering up his droopy spirits, he proceeded homeward with the intention of reaching the abbey about nightfall, when he might gain his cell and a clean dress without being observed by the brotherhood, as he knew a very convenient corner whereby he might scale the wall, and which he had often used to elude the vigilance of watchers when he had been out beyond canonical hours. Footsore, chagrined, and terrified, which, by the way, is the name of my new album, had dragged his body along, which had never undergone such penance before. For truly his flesh had been mortified in all his mishaps and misadventures. He smiled to himself as he thought, how should he circumvent his ghostly tormentor when he got within the protection of the holy walls? This thought caused him to step out boldly and reach the outward boundary of the abbey grounds as the twilight darkened into night. He soon found the dilapidated buttress, the iniquities of which gave him a sure foothold, and had often answered his purpose on a less pressing occasion. Unfortunately for him, the abbot that night was a rather dyspeptic, therefore was indulging himself with a cool walk in the grounds, and heard the sound of some falling stones caused by the ascent of Nicodemus. He stood still and listened, during which pause the unfortunate climber had reached the summit of the wall, and was just preparing to descend when the specter appeared upon the ground, and threw the full power of its light upon the descending figure. The abbot, startled by the sight of Nicodemus, whom he recognized, as well as by the supernatural light, rang the alarm bell, which soon brought to his aid a pious brawny throng. Not a thong, but a throng. Is
this late night Christmas stories? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm just throwing stuff in there now. We're putting thongs into the he rang the alarm bell, which soon brought to his aid a pious brawny throng, not thong, which quickly laid hands on the suspected culprit. He was dragged before the authorities of the convent, but his rapid ideality stood his friend, and he made up so pretty a drama of the miracle kind as established him ever after as a particularly favored individual, all of which was emblazoned in missals, not like the kind you launch, but missals as in the kind you read. Just figured I'd clarify there.
You read missals?
Yeah, like Bible missals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All of which was emblazoned in missals in the artistic department, and Nicodemus became glorified. This was all very well, but the old woman was not to be cheated, for whenever he did not wish to be seen, the light would discover him, until his life became one scene of terror and apprehension. So at last he made an appointment with the ghost in his cell, where he took nothing but holy water, for he wouldn't give a chance away. True to its appointment, the ghost, with its light a little turned down, made its appearance, bowing politely to Nicodemus. It stood waiting patiently to hear his proposal. Refusing to take a chair, the clothes hung themselves on a peg usually appropriated to wet umbrellas, and he presumed listened. "Now, my good old friend," said Nicodemus, beginning with a friendly and confidential style, although, to tell the truth, his teeth chattered, "it pains me to see you in that uncomfortable position. I wish I could persuade you to take a chair so that you might discuss the matter more at your ease." "Nonsense," said the spirit. "It's only my clothes." "Ah, well, as you like," continued he. "But now to business. Could we not come to some amicable agreement? Could you not allow me to pay a dividend and be quit of you? Come, don't be hard." He just told a ghost, "Don't be hard." It's kind of.
I have to say the same thing to you when we pass the old folks home.
Right, I know. It's been a long time. The hood slightly quivered and said in a sharp, decisive tone, "I'll see you hanged first. Then I'll drown you in holy water, cried he, starting up with his ruby gills much redder than usual. Pooh, said the hood. Water can't put out spirits. Well, that's not what we believe now. You're supposed you're supposed to be able to throw a little holy water on those spirits and get rid of them. You're an obstinate old fool, said he. And pray tell me, if I hold tight, what power have you to get it? How, knave? Since you are not choice in your epithets, I'll tell you how. In the next grave to me lies a chatty old lawyer. I've stated my case to him, and his advice is throw it into chancery, and then the fiend himself can't get it. Oh, look at that. And that is the story of Nicodemus.
That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, little jokes aside and all.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the Tim version of any story I can get, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Stories can be epic, but once you get the Tim version, it's like the author's rolling in their grave like, thanks.
Yeah,
bud.
they're like, we didn't mean to tell it like that. That's horrible, is what they say.
Like, and by the way, what he would have been like, and what is the thong he speaketh of?
What is this thong? If I were to say it, it'd be thong for thong thong thong. Yeah.
It would be dumps like a truck. What?
What is this?
Like what?
Who is this Cisco you speak of?
So the story I got in front of me is one that I've read through only once before. But as we were talking about this, and I'm like, man, this is what I want to come to the table with. And you said you're like, yeah, I'm semi-familiar. Make a run at it, right?
Right.
The author is Morant Cox.
That's what she said. What? Huh?
You got to say that one slow too, because otherwise it sounds like it's some sort of 5-star. Anyway,
Demas and Cox, we're all over the place today. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is from Eat More Cox. Walsham Grange is what it's called, but it has a subtitle of A Real Ghost Story. It's one of the lighter tales in the collection. Walsham Grange first appeared in the Illustrated London News Christmas number back in 1885, right? As readers of the first volume of the Victorian Christmas Ghost Stories will know, such tales are about evenly divided between those featuring supernatural hauntings and those whose ghosts are revealed to have a rational explanation. The subtitle of the piece, A Real Ghost Story, it's playfully ambiguous, hinting that it contains a real ghost, though in fact the nature of this haunting turns out to be more unreal or rational than on the ghostly. Little known today, the author was an illustrator of books for young readers in the late 19th century, and this one seems to be one of his few forays into fiction, so he didn't mess with fiction a whole lot. So, are you ready? Are you strapped in?
I'm strapped in, ready to go.
Do you have your hot chocolate? Do you got a blankie?
I got a Coke and a blankie over there, but I'm ready.
Okay, we'll skip the blankie. Here we go. This is Walsham Grange. I've been requested to alter all the names. Stood about 6 miles from the sea. A lonely, desolate old manor house with a bad name among the people around. Some horrible murder had happened. It was committed there in days gone by, and the house was haunted. Mudley was one of the nearest villages, some 3 miles off, and queer tales were told by belated travelers of fearful shrieks and strange lights flittering from room to room. It was in fact a regular haunted house of the old school. Well, my great uncle married and wanted to settle down somewhere in the country. By the way, that was a great spot to make a joke about in-laws and the house haunted, but it's fine. Look here, farriers, said his friend, Bufferton. Here's the very thing for you. Take Walsham Grange off my hands. My wife hates a country life, or I would live there myself. It seems a pity to let the old place go to wreck and ruin for want of a tenant. But no one will stay because of the nonsense about the ghosts. Which, by the way, he talks about his wife hating the country life.
Yeah.
Didn't they turn that into a TV show called Green Acres years later?
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
It goes on to say, but you are a sensible man, and you shall have the place, grounds and all, for a mere song. And I tell you what, my boy, give a regular good Christmas party. Fill the house with friends. Invite us down, and we'll find out all about the ghosts, and you can see how the place suits you. Ferriers was delighted at the notion, and they determined to go down together first to see if they could discover anything before their wives and the guests arrived. They agreed to say nothing about the ghost to anyone, especially the servants, who were to follow them as soon as possible. So off they started by the Exeter coach, having sent word to the caretakers to prepare for them. Evening was just setting in when they reached Walsham Grange. They were delighted to find a capital repast ready for them, and they were a good deal amused at the conduct of the old caretaker and his wife, who lived in a cottage hard by. I'd imagine that's old school speak for nearby.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything else. And evidently dreaded staying so late in the great house, and were thankful when the time came to say goodnight. After the constant rumble of the coaches, the old house seemed painfully quiet. However, they chat away merrily when bang goes a door close by. They seize candles and rush out, pistol in hand. Pistol against a ghost?
Yeah.
Yes, the drawing room door is shut. There is no draft. What on earth can have closed it? Oh, what's that? The door at the other end of the room is suddenly flung open. Ferriers runs up, sees something dark, and fires. I say, old fellow, says Bufferton. Trying to laugh? Don't do too much of that. It's bad for the furniture. That was your shadow. Nothing more happened, so they persuaded themselves that it must have been the wind. And so, after a smoke and a glass of grog, good grog before bed will do you good.
Oh, yeah.
They went to bed. Next morning, they thoroughly explored the whole place, but found nothing. In due course, their families and guests arrived. Not a word was said about the ghosts, but after dinner, when they were all in the drawing room, doors were suddenly heard slamming violently. Our friends eye each other. Askance? See, that's a big word for me. And hark! What's that? A low wail commencing far away at first, but gradually coming nearer and nearer, and culminating in one awful shriek. What is it? The ladies began to scream and faint, and all the servants come rushing in, scared out of their wits. This helps to restore the scattered courage of the gentlemen, and the last unearthly yell having died away, Ferriers proposes that the men should at once institute a search for the miscreant, sir, who is trying to frighten us. All the servants are there, and their unmistakable alarms shows plainly enough that they know nothing of the mystery. We must go at once, says Terriers, and discover the rascal ghosts? Pooh, nonsense. But for all the ladies who would not be left alone, so it ended, in the whole party going over the east wing, where the screams seemed to originate. The gentlemen were continually seizing each other in the gloom, and quite a struggle took place between two old gentlemen before either found out their mistake. However, this served to raise the company's spirits, and as nothing could be seen or heard, they rapidly accepted the suggestion of a footman. Perhaps it's cats, sir. And so, feeling infinitely relieved, they all went merrily to bed. Merrily to bed, rather. Said rather. What is this, a newscast? All right, here we go. The story goes on. An hour or so passed away in silence when suddenly a yell of agony rang through the house. Shriek followed shriek in close succession. The ladies in their rooms are screaming and adding to the general uproar. Then one last frightful yell, and all is still once more. The rest of the night passes quickly enough, and at dawn the household gets a little sleep. And at dawn the household gets a little sleep. The servants, however, give warning first thing. Everyone looks scared and shaky at breakfast, and one guest, Mrs. Rose, is quite hysterical. Sends at once for the chase, and declares she shall die if she sleeps another night in the house. And so goes away, taking the only 3 unmarried ladies with her. Now, see, that's the problem.
Yeah.
She said she was just dozing off to sleep when a strange creaking noise aroused her.
Uh-huh.
Oh, let the single ladies leave then. At first, when she thought it must be the wood fire, which was still smoldering on the hearth, when to her awful horror, she saw a panel of the high wainscot slowly sliding down, and behind it, the most frightful couple she had ever seen, a masked man and an old woman. The former softly stepped into the room. Then she saw what she had not before observed. Bending lovingly over a cradle just before the fire was a beautiful girl. She was singing a quaint little lullaby as she gently rocked the baby to sleep. Suddenly she looked around and shrieked with terror as she saw the hideous form behind her, with one hand extended towards the cradle. A moment more, and they were struggling together. Anything to protect her child from the man. Then he drew a dagger, but the poor girl, in her endeavor to keep him from reaching the cradle, had pushed it near to the open wainscot. Listen, little education.
Yeah.
What's a wainscot?
Isn't he a folk artist from the 60s? I have to Google that myself. Let's see.
We're gonna this is a Google break brought to you by Darkness Radio.
That's right. Google,
available wherever you get your podcasts.
Google break. Actually, let's put an actual sponsor behind it. Brought to you by Jelly Bean and Julia's. For the best in barbecue in Coon Rapids, head over to Jelly Bean and Julia's. By the way, excellent prime rib on Friday nights. Excellent prime rib. It's a smoked prime rib, by the way. Served with... What's that?
Let me ask, though, how's the coleslaw? Because I've heard the barbecue is fantastic. How's the coleslaw?
Coleslaw is amazing. Smoked prime rib, amazing. Also, it's actually not a coleslaw. It's the classic tequila berry salad that it's... Yes, it's served with the classic tequila berry salad.
I just got goosebumps.
I know,
Holy
right?
cow.
Right. So, wainscot is a decorative wall paneling, often wood, installed on the lower part of interior walls, traditionally to provide insulation and protect walls from damage, but now mainly for aesthetic appeal, adding texture, elegance, or character with the popular styles like beadboard, raised panel, or board and batten, or typically covering the bottom third of the wall. So this explanation of wainscot brought to you by Jelly Bean and Julia's. Stop on in. Used to be the old, what was the name of it? But it's over in Coon Rapids. Look it up. It's over in Coon Rapids. We'll have a link in the description of this program so you can find Jelly Bean and Julia's over in Coon Rapids. Again, the smoked prime rib on Friday nights and other things at jellybeanandjulias.com, I believe. Yeah. So there you go.
And that salad, my God.
Oh, tequila berry salad is amazing. Yeah.
Well, there's drool all over the studio. It's fine. Back into it. In an instant, the old hag threw herself forward to go to Jelly Bean and Julia's and clutched the still sleeping child, uttering as she did so a loud yell of triumph. Shriek after shriek rang from the wretched girl. Then the man struck her down with his dagger and leaped through the panel, which was closed directly after him. Mrs. Ross rushed to the door in an agony of terror, but, stumbling over a chair, fell senseless to the ground. When she recovered, daylight was streaming into the room, but there was no trace of girl or cradle, nor any sign of that struggle that had taken place. After Mrs. Rose had gone, a complete search was made in her room, but no sliding panel could be found. However, that night, the gentleman sat up, determined to discover the mystery. Well, just about 11:45, up gets Mr. Woodbury and says, "Look here, Ferriers, you're a sensible man, and you know you don't believe in ghosts. And I think it's not right for us to lend ourselves to such absurd folly. And, in fact, as a father of a family, I shall not consent to watch for a ghost. So good night." And off he goes to bed. After this, first one, and then another gets up, glances at the clock, and says, each in more or less the same words, "Yes, it's not only cats, Ferriers, and Mrs. Ross had a nightmare. I agree with Woodbury, so good night." At last, Ferriers finds himself left alone. It wants just 2 minutes to 12. He hesitates. Presently, a dog begins to howl. This is too much, and Ferriers bolts. Well, the shrieks that night were worse than ever, and the next day, all the guests went away. Ferriers and his wife, of course, couldn't spend Christmas there alone, so they went too, and the old house was once more left dark and deserted. So Walsham Grange was simply uninhabitable, much to the disgust of Brufton, and my great-uncle Ferriers. Lights were seen, burning more brightly than ever in the windows of the old place, and many a shepherd passing after dark was half scared out of his wits by the awful shrieks that echoed through the deserted house. Of course, the story about the ghosts and the sudden departure of the guests from the Grange made a great sensation in all the villages round and kept everybody's tongue wagging for months. In town, too, all the guests were questioned over and over again by their friends who constantly put up special dinner parties on purpose to hear all about the ghosts from the lips of one who had really been in a haunted house. But while nearly all the visitors to Walsham declared they never had passed such a terrible time before in their lives and would not enter the house again for worlds, there were a great many friends who lamented bitterly that they had that they and their husbands had not been invited. Well, Christmastide was fast coming round again, and one day, who should turn up but Ferriers? Let me get back to my spot here. Ferriers' brother Jack, a young lieutenant on leave for Christmas from His Majesty's ship, Tackler, lately off the south coast, endeavoring to put down the smuggling that went on there to an enormous extent. So Master Jack was full of anecdotes and hairbreadth, we'll say that, hairbreadth escapes and adventures with smugglers, both by land and sea. "Ah, Jack," said Mrs. Ferriers, "that south coast is indeed a dreadful place." And then she told them all about the ghosts at Walsham Grange. But instead of laughing, as Ferriers half expected, the young fellow took very great interest in the story and got them to tell it again, and then, quite frightened by them, jumping up, banging the table and shouting, "By George, I've got it! Hurrah! Look here, old fellow, you take the place at once from Brufton, and we'll go down together, and I'll warrant, I'll check, clear the house of its ghosts in a week." Now, Ferriers couldn't find a country house that suited him anything like as well as the Grange, and really hankered after it so much that he had been on the point of proposing to make a fresh attempt to oust the ghosts. So seeing how much in earnest his brother was, he sprang at the idea. Brewton was delighted. He too had long been contemplating another visit to the Grange, but did not like to ask farriers to help him again. Well, the end of it was they all three settled to go down together. The ladies, however, much to Jack's amusement, would not hear of their going alone. If their husbands went, they must go too. Well, Jack said Jack, all the better and better still, if you will give another party just as you did last year. But there's one thing you must leave to me. You must let me provide you with servants. Perhaps they won't wait very well at the table, but you mustn't mind that. And they'll be rather fond of rum. However, directly the ghosts are laid.
What?
What? I mean, I'd imagine they passed because they weren't getting it, but it's
right.
fine.
Yeah.
I'll send them away. And you can get your own domestics down. Of course, the ladies can bring a maid or two, but don't take too many. And above all things, don't let it be known that I sent the servants. Jack started off, thank God for the word started in the middle of there, at once to engage the attendants and send them down to the Grange. And a most extraordinary lot they seemed, exciting general attention on their way to the coach. Well, when the guests arrived at the Grange a few days later, they found half a dozen strapping damsels, as many men servants, ready to obey them. Their method of waiting at table was decidedly particular. Particular. I'm just making sure that I got the pages in the right order here. And created a great deal of merriment. The first 2 or 3 nights passed away without any ghostly visitation, and everybody felt almost disappointed. But one evening, a door was heard to bang in the disused hall, or disused wing. Then another. Everyone rushed out of the drawing room and saw to their astonishment all the servants, instead of being transfixed with terror, rushing wildly one after the other, maids and men, into the haunting wing. Then Jack, who was the first to disappear, came running back. "It's all right," he says. "We've got him." "Got whom?" screamed the guests. "Why, the ghosts," laughs Jack. "Or one of them, at any rate. Here he is. Look at him." And just then, up comes the party of the servants, bringing with them the ghost, certainly an awful-looking ruffian, white with rage and mortification at his discovery. He refused positively to say who he was and how he came there, loudly regretting that his pistol had misfired. Then a happy thought struck Jack. Tie him up tight to the blousters, then come along to Mrs. Ross's room. And there, sure enough, the panel by the fireplace stood open just as she had described it. "Follow me, my lads," cries Jack, snatching a lantern from one of the men and jumping through the panel. Farriers and Brewton were after him like lightning, followed by the servants. They found themselves in a narrow passage running inside the walls of several rooms and leading to a winding staircase. After descending cautiously for some way, they see a light at the foot of the stairs. "Julio, Jim," cries a voice. "Have you woke him up a bit?" Hey, says Jack, bounding down the stairs. "That I have. And you too. Brackenbury." And before the man has time to recover himself, Jack has thrown him to the ground and snatched his pistols from his belt. Some 8 or 10 men sitting round a fire are as quickly pinioned by Jack's followers. There was but very little resistance made, for they all seemed quite dazed at Jack's sudden onslaught. On examination, they find they are all in an old cellar, well stocked with casks of spirits, wines, silks, satins, and all kinds of excusable goods. Then Brufton and Ferriers understood why Jack was so anxious to know all about the ghosts, for they proved to be a gang of the most notorious smugglers on the South Coast. Several women appeared to be on the scene, bewailing the capture of their husbands, and Brufton called Ferrier's attention to an old-fashioned cradle that no doubt played in the mock tragedy that Mrs. Ross had beheld. Indeed, ultimately, Brackenbury confessed that they had shammed ghosts to keep the house empty, and some ancient dresses they found in a chest enabled them to act part of an old legend connected with the house. While a subterraneous passage leading from the cellar to a wood at the back of the Grange, the entrance began being completely hidden by thick ivy, afforded them a means of coming and going unobserved. Jack got his promotion for capturing the smugglers, and the servants who, it is perhaps needless to say, were some of the tackler's crew, got well rewarded. But after all, Brackenbury and his gang got off scot-free, as the asses scot-free at the asses for it could not have been proved that they smuggled these particular goods, nor even that the goods were smuggled. And neither Brufton nor Ferriers made any charge against them, feeling a kind of sympathy with their wildlife. But the secret door was bricked up.
Bricked up?
and bricked up. And good care was taken that never again should they play the ghost at Walsham Grange.
Excellent.
And it's a good story. I dig it.
It
and
is
it's funny because a lot of ghost stories end in an explanation, right?
Yeah.
Or end in, obviously it being what you think it is.
Yeah.
But for it to be these guys that were just like, hey, get the hell out of the house. We're trying to hide stuff here.
Yeah, we're trying to hide stuff, right? Yeah.
But it also lets you know there's a bigger story upon that, right? Like if you fast forward to like our time now, it goes, the real scary part of the story is anybody will deceive you to get what they need.
That's right. That's right.
So that's the scary part.
And the cool thing about a lot of Victorian stories is there was a lot of black and white. There wasn't a lot of gray in their storytelling. So you either had a good story, you either had an evil story, but there wasn't. In the villains were villains, good guys were good guys. There wasn't a lot of in between. So
listen, and my ability to barely graduate Armstrong High School back in 1999 showed how I did in English class with reading some of them words.
Well, they're tough stories. I think you'd agree, right? I mean, you've been broadcasting for a long time, and these are not easy stories to read. And sometimes people would be like, "Really? These have got to be easy stories to negotiate." They're not. To read older English or Old English is not an easy thing to negotiate, especially reading out loud.
But the cool thing is to go relive a story like that likely was a tale that, was shared amongst families and whatnot for years and years, to resurrect them in this manner. And again, it's not a Christmas story, but it's a Christmas story, right? Because they go back for the Christmas party.
Absolutely. Yeah. These are absolutely Christmas stories that were shared around the fire for many, many years. In fact, they were probably shared for a good, before they were published in the mid 1800s, they were probably shared for a good 50, 75 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about, we bring them up now in 2025. These are probably 200 years old, 225 years old. So yeah, just a little slice of something a little spooky on your Christmas, bringing it back, kind of old style, right? Kind of OG on a Christmas in 2025, just so you have a little something spooky.
Listen, some of the best parts of the holidays are the storytelling, right? In between the gifts and the meals, it's the stories that are told, and I really like that one a lot.
That's right. The only thing scarier on Christmas Day today, D, is this. It's the Vikings-Lions game. So I digress.
Vikings are going to win, so I'm glad you're recording. The Vikings will win that game.
Ooh, look at that. A bold prediction. It is a home game. So, I think so. And look, see, I'm wearing my Vikings. So,
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
My son's already ready to rock because the Vikings are wearing their whiteout jerseys or whatever they call them things.
Yep.
So we'll be rocking our whiteouts on the couch here shortly.
Absolutely. I will too. But so what we'll do is we'll take a break. When we come back, of course, we got more friends coming in, and we're going to share more of these Victorian Christmas stories. And again, maybe it's one of those days where sports isn't your thing. Maybe it's one of those days where you've got a Yule log burning and you want to hear more scary stories. We've got more scary stories on the way. Wayne, before we leave people today, tell people where they can find you.
Listen, anywhere on social media, from YouTube to Instagram to TikTok, it's He's Wayne D, Hes Wayne, and then just the letter D.
And then, of course, the programs. You've got the podcast.
Yes, I mean we're on the radio all over the place. I try and link it on my Instagram, but it's like, we're on in Austin, Texas. We're on in Nashville. We're on in Minneapolis. We're on in. It'd be quicker to say cities we're not in. We're in Denver. We're in Boston. We're in DC. So if you're listening in any of those places, check my Instagram, and I'll try and share links to your local radio stations. Just look up iHeartRadio and country station in your city, and you get us either Saturdays or weeknights or mornings or afternoons.
We'll link up Wayne in the description of this podcast. You can check out his social media. You can get the links to where you can listen to Wayne around the country. And boy, he's just, not only is he playing music from anybody who's anybody in country, but he's pretty much interviewed anybody who's anybody in country. And of course, if you're a Nashville Predators fan, go to the game. He's there.
And if you're a regular Predators fan, we'll turn you into the police. So.
Oh gosh, no, don't do that.
The files came out, right? So it's just saying.
Those Predators. I'm sorry. I thought you meant a Nashville Predators fan. I thought you were going to turn in your own people.
No, you brought up when I did the games in Stockholm. When I got back, someone was like, "Oh, look at you! You're just an international Predator."
Right.
And they didn't realize what they said, and I was like, "No, you can't. You can't."
I know I wasn't the only one. I know a bunch of people sent it to you, but I sent you the SNL file or the SNL video, and I said, "Oh my God, look what they're doing to your team." That bit was so funny.
I mean, it is, but we've also been the Nashville Predators since 1998.
Right.
So it's not like. If we were a newer-ish team, like it'd be kind of like funny.
But did they really do shirts that said Preds in the community?
Here's the best part about that. Oh my Lord. I mean, obviously this is an audio podcast, but you have the video component. Let me see if I can find this real quick. So on Giving Tuesday, right? Like it goes Black Friday and then Cyber Monday and then Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
Giving Tuesday, there's the Nashville Predators Foundation, and the Predators Foundation literally gives money to everywhere in the community here in Nashville. And they figured, hey man, these shirts were a hit. Let's sell them.
Oh no.
So the shirts were it was a $25 donation, and then you could get a Preds in the community t-shirt.
Oh no.
What I told them
no.
I go, that's a bad look, right? They're like, money for the community is money. And I go, we should have been selling those before Halloween because that would have been a hit of the Halloween costume. They don't come in our size, Tim. Otherwise, I would have sent you one.
Oh my God, that would have been hysterical. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Welcome to my personal hell, Tim.
Oh. Wow. Talk about one of the biggest missteps in PR history.
Yeah.
Well, but we all got to laugh at ourselves every once in a while, right?
Exactly. Listen, if you can't laugh at yourself, you're missing the joke.
That's right. I do it every day. When I look down. But Merry Christmas to me. I put a bow on it.
Real small bow.
It's a very small bow. I found it on a Barbie doll. That sounded weird. Okay, let's go to break. That's
great, but where'd you find the bow?
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm not going any further with it. I want to thank Wayne D. Thank you very much for being on today. I hope I haven't gotten you kicked off your station. And when we come back, we've got more Victorian Christmas stories today. Again, a few scares on your Christmas. We're going back to traditional Christmas today, and we're wishing everybody out there a Merry Christmas. So thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you, Wayne.
Merry Christmas, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Folks, more Victorian Christmas stories on the way next here on the Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back, folks. It's Victorian Christmas Stories 2025. It's hard to believe that it's already Christmas time already. We've shot through the year. It seems like just yesterday, my co-host Jessica Freeburg is with us, so let's welcome in now Jessica Freeburg. Hi, Jess.
Hi.
I didn't mean to shorten your intro. Normally I have this long, flowery intro for you.
Hey, they've already heard my intro twice this week, so we're good.
That's true. It seems like just yesterday we were sitting down doing supernatural news and coming up with predictions for this year.
I know. How did the year go so fast?
I know. And now we're sitting here and we're going through ghost stories for Christmas. And next week, an anniversary show. And we're doing predictions again. So
wild.
Yeah. And here we are. We've gone one solar trip around the sun and another year shot in the ass, as my grandfather used to say. But it's been a fun year. It's been a man, when you look at the hitters row of guests we've had on this year, it's been a fruitful year. It's been a good year.
Yeah.
It's been a fun year.
You're killing it. And it's been so fun doing the shows with you. Thank you for letting me be part of the team.
I've thoroughly enjoyed having you here. You've been an amazing co-host. I can't express my gratitude enough for having you here, and thank you so much. I don't think people, and again, I'm going to sing your praises here for a second, so buckle down, Buttercup, you're going to get it full blast here. I don't think people realize how much you have going on in your daily life. And most people, if I were to ring them up last minute and say, all right, Jess, how good do you feel to do today? Do you feel like doing two? They'd say, oh God, are you kidding? I got to move this and this and this and this. Jess just smiles and moves mountains and does it with ease, it seems like. And it's not easy. It's not easy at times to put up with the demands that the show throws down. And Jess does it not only with incredible ease, but with a smile, and she's an incredibly valuable member of the show. So I want to thank you so much, Jess. You have no idea how much gratitude.
Do you know why I do that?
No, I don't, because you don't want to break my heart.
No, because I sincerely love you as a brother, and I would do anything for you.
Well,
I sincerely love our audience, and they deserve great shows, and I'm just happy to be part of that. Well,
I sincerely love you so much too, and I thank you so much. You have no idea. I think people realize how much each and every member of this show cares about the product and how much they care about the audience. And I think it shows. I think it shows in every single show. So
I hope so.
Yeah. I think everyone knows that we don't phone it in when we come in. So, yeah. So it's been a really good year and much more to come. Much more to come. So we
absolutely.
We've got some good stuff coming up in 26. I know that. I know that for sure. So Victorian ghost stories today. Again, the idea is, everything old is new again. It seems like throwback is the thing to say lately. The last few years, you've got the NFL. NFL is playing today. They've not only got a combination of throwback jerseys, but new style that reflects old style. You know, the NFL has, well, gosh, you think of the amount of teams that feature alternate uniforms that are throwback jerseys. Our own Minnesota Vikings have throwback jerseys that they wear. You know, and it seems like traditions on Christmas are a great thing. We like to go back to what's comfortable. And a few years ago, I thought, why not go back to a Victorian Christmas tradition of telling ghost stories on Christmas, specifically Victorian Christmas stories. They're not easy to tell. And like I was saying with Wayne in the first segment, as a broadcaster, these are not easy to read. These are not easy stories. So Jess, I'm going to test your mettle here.
Oh, you guys wish me luck and feel free to laugh at me if I mess up the words. We were opening gifts earlier and I was telling the kids I got something for them from the artisans at a marketplace. And they're like, do you mean artisans? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? But you weren't wrong either.
Are they both right? Because they were like, yes. Mom, you're so stupid. And I'm like, what? Listen to what I mean, not what I said.
No, because artesian is technically correct too, but you're right. They are right. They're right in the current version of the way it's pronounced at that market. It is an artisan.
Okay. So I was falling back into my old Victoria. I was preparing for this is what I was doing.
That's right. But
getting into character.
But you do have an artesian well, and you do have artesian, spring water, and you do have, so there's, again, it depends on the context. There's artesian and then there's artisan. So, yeah.
But that all to say, I might mess up some words, but I'm just going to read them with passion and, carry forward.
I tell you, they're tough. What's funny is okay, in the first segment, Wayne had to take a break. If you ever have to take a break and you don't know what something is, it's okay. I can fill with a commercial from Jelly Bean and Julia's.
Perfect.
So he was like, Wayne Scott, what the hell is a Wayne Scott? So I Googled it and found out.
That I do know.
Okay. So, see, you knew more than him. So if you look at something and it totally gobsmacks you, see, gobsmack, I used an old word. If something totally gobsmacks you, I can grab the old Google machine. See the old Google machine right here, and I can look it up. And then at that particular point, we can, or if you want to look it up on Google, then at that point, or I can look it up. As I'm looking it up, I can simultaneously do an ad for Jelly Bean Julia's. As I'm looking it up, I can do it off the top of my head. I'm that good.
Oh, you are good.
Yeah. So there you go.
All right.
So with that, we have see, I even forgot the name of the story that we have for that you're reading. The name of the story.
I know it.
Okay. What's the name of the story that you're reading?
Do you want to hear it?
Yes, please. Yeah.
The Veiled Portrait by James Grant.
That's right. The Veiled Portrait by James Grant. Okay.
It sounds creepy.
That's because, again, 7 concussions and post-concussive syndrome. I can only maintain it for a few minutes. But The Veiled Portrait by James Grant. So with that, Jess, tell us a little bit about The Veiled Portrait by James Grant, a little background, and then go ahead and launch into the story.
Okay. Yeah. Well, James Grant was born in 1822 and lived until 1887. He turned to writing after his military career, publishing over 70 novels. So he is even busier than me. Mm-hmm. Many of them adventure stories for boys. As its title suggests, The Veiled Portrait is one of many gothic or ghostly tales that draw on the unsettling effect the image of someone dead, captured in a painting and seemingly looking down on us from a wall, can have on us. As with Ellen Wood's A Mysterious Visitor in Valancourt's first collection of Christmas ghost stories, Grant's tale concerns the Indian Mutiny of 1857, during which Indian soldiers rebelled against the British, leading to acts of extreme violence and cruelty on both sides, including the massacre of British women and children by the Indians. Grant's story first appeared in the London Society Christmas number in 1874.
All right. With that, let us proceed.
All right, here we go. It has been asserted that one cannot hold intercourse with that which is generally called the unseen world, or behold anything supernatural and live. But these ideas, from my own experience, I am inclined to doubt. In the year subsequent to the Great Bengal Mutiny, I found myself at home on sick leave. My health had been injured by service in India and by our sufferings consequent of the revolt, while my nervous system had been so seriously shaken by a grape shot wound received at Lucknow that it was completely changed, and I became cognizant of many things so utterly new to me and so bewildering that until I read Baron Reichenbach's work on magnetism and crystallism, I feared that I was becoming insane. I was sensible of the power of a magnet over me, though it might be 3 rooms distant. And twice in darkness, which seemed perfect to others, my room became filled with light. But the Baron holds that darkness so full of light, and that to increase the sensitiveness of the visual organs is to render that rare and dissipated light susceptible. Oh, that's an easy word. How did I mess that one up?
That's all right. That's all right.
Susceptible with all that it may contain. I was now compelled to acknowledge the existence of that new power in nature, which the Baron calls the Odic light, and of many other phenomena that are described in Der Geist in der Natur of Christian Oersted, the understanding that pervades all things. But to my story. Nearly a year had elapsed since the mutiny. The massacres at Delhi, Lucknow, Kanpur, and elsewhere had been fearfully avenged by that army of retribution which marched from Umbalek, and I found myself in London, enfeebled, enervated, and as the saying is, weak as a child. The bustle of the great capital stunned and bewildered me. Thus, I gladly accepted a hearty invitation which I received from Sidney Warren, one of ours, but latterly of the Staff Corps, to spend a few weeks, months if I choose, at his place in Herts. Fine old house of the Tudor times, approached from the London road by an avenue that was a grand, triumphal arc of nature's own creation, with lofty interlacing boughs and hanging foliage. Who, thought I, that was lord of such a place would dream of broiling in India, of sweltering in the whitewashed barrack at the Dum-Dum, or the thatched cantonments of Delhi and Meerut? My friend came hurrying forth to meet me. "How goes it, old fellow? Welcome to my new quarters," he exclaimed. "Well, Sidney, old man, how are you?" Sorry, I can't get my mouse to move. Then we grasped each other's hands as only brother soldiers do. I found Warren, whom I had not seen since the commencement of the revolt, nearly as much changed and shattered in constitution as myself, but I knew that he had lost those whom he loved most in the world amid the massacre at Meerut. He received me, however, with all the warmth of an old comrade, for we had 1,000 topics in common to con over, while the regiment, which neither of us might ever see again, he certainly not, as he had sold out, would prove an endless source of conversation. Sidney Warren was in his 40th year, but looked considerably older. His once dark hair and coal-black mustache were quite grizzled now. The expression on his face was one of intense sadness, as if some secret grief consumed him, while there was a weird and far-seeing expression that led me to fear he was not fated to be long in this world. Yet he had gone through the storm of the Indian War without receiving even a scratch. Why was this? Before I had spent 2 days with Sidney, he had shown me all the objects of interest around the Warren, and in it the portrait gallery, with its courtiers and high ruffs and dames and the long stomachers of one period of décolleté dresses of another, his collection of Indian antiquities amassed at the plundering of Delhi, and those which were interesting to me, ponderous suits of mail which had been hatched and battered in the wars of roses, and the thorn pennon unfurled by Warren's troop of horse for God of the King at Nasabai. But there was one object what he would neither show nor permit me to look upon, and which seemed to make him shiver or shudder whenever it caught his eye. And this was a picture of some kind in the library, a room he very rarely entered. It was the size of a life portrait, covered closely by a green baize hanging. Good taste compelled me to desist from talking to him on the subject, but I resolved to gratify my curiosity of the first convenient occasion. So one day, when he was absent at the stable court, I drew back the hanging of this mysterious picture. It proved to be the full-length portrait of a very beautiful girl, a proud and stately one, too, bordering on blooming womanhood. Her features were clearly cut and classic. She had an olive-colored complexion that seemed to tell of another land than England, yet the type of her rare beauty was purely English. Her forehead was broad and low. Her dark eyes that seemed to haunt and follow me were deeply set, with black brows well defined. Her chin was rather massive, as if indicating resolution of character, yet the soft, right lips were full of sweetness, while the gorgeous coils of her dark hair were crisp and wavy. Her attire was a green riding habit, the skirt of which was gathered in her left hand, while the right grasped the bridle of her horse. It was not a portrait of his wife, whom I remember to have been a fair-haired little lady. So, who was this mysterious lady? I cannot describe the emotion this portrait excited within me, but I started and let fall the curtain with a distinct sensation of someone or something I could not see being close beside me. So I hurried from the shady library into the sunshine. Lovely though the face, I can see it yet in all its details. It haunted me with an unpleasant persistency, impossible either to analyze or portray, but I was a creature of fancies then. Herein, thought I, lurks some mystery, which may never be cleared up to me. But in this surmise I was wrong, for one night, the night of Sunday, the 10th May, first anniversary of the outbreak at Meerut, after we had discussed an excellent dinner with a bottle or two of Moselli, and betaken us to iced brandy pawnee, for so we still love to call it, and to the soothing weed on the sofas of the smoking room, Warren became suddenly seized by one of those confidential fits which many men unaccountably have at such times, and while he unsparingly and bitterly reproached himself for the part he had acted in it, I drew from him little by little the secret story of his life. Some 10 years before those days of which I write, been in the Guards and deeply dipped in debt by extravagance, he, unknown to his family, married secretly a beautiful girl who was penniless at the very time his friends were seeking to retrieve his fortune by a wealthy alliance. An exchange into the line, the sliding scale, became necessary. Thus, he was gazetted to their regiment in India at a period when his young wife was in extremely delicate health, so much so that the idea of her voyage round the Cape, where there were no P and O liners then, was not to be thought of, as it was expressly forbidden by the medical men. So they were to be separated for a time, and that time of parting, so dreaded by Constance, came inexorably. The last fatal evening came, the last Sidney was to spend with her. His strapped overlands and bullocked trunks, his sword and cape, both cased, were already in the entrance hall. The morrow's morning would see him off by the train for Southampton, and his place would be vacant, and she would see his fond hazel eyes no more. Tears again, said he, almost impatiently, while tenderly caressing the dark and glossy hair of his girl wife. Why on earth are you so sad, Coney, about this temporary separation? Would that I could be certain it is only such, she exclaimed. Sad, oh, can you ask me, Sydney, darling? The presentiment of an great sorrow to come is hanging over me. Presentiment, Constance, do not indulge in this folly. If I did not love you dearly, Sydney, would such a painful emotion rack my heart? It is the merest superstition, darling, and you will get over it when I'm fairly away. Her tender eyes regarded him wistfully for a moment, and then her tears fell faster with the contemplation of the coming loneliness. After a pause, she asked, Are there any passengers going out with you? A few in the cuddy, he replied carelessly. Do you know any of them? Yes, one or two fellows on the staff. And the ladies, she asked, after another pause. I don't know, Connie dear. What do they matter to me? I heard incidentally that Miss Dashwood was going to be on your vessel. Indeed, I believe she will. Constance shivered, for the name of this finished flirt, that of her husband, had been more than once linked, and his change of color was unseen by her as he turned to manipulate a cigar. So for 4, perhaps 6 months, these two would be together upon the sea. Constance knew then well the irritable nature of her husband's temper, to say more on the subject of her secret thoughts. And deeply loath was she that such ideas should embitter the few brief hours they were to be together now. So a silence ensued, which after a time she broke, while taking between her slender fingers a hand of Sydney, who was leaning half moodily, half listlessly against the mantelpiece, twisting his mustache with a somewhat mingled expression of face. Sydney, darling, she said entreatingly, do forgive me if I'm dull and sad, so triste this evening. I do forgive you, little one. You know, Sydney, that I would die for you. Yes, but don't, Connie, for I hate scenes, said he, playfully kissing her sweetly sad, upturned face, and the poor girl was forced to be content with this matter-of-fact kind of tenderness. So the dreaded morrow came, and its sad moment of parting. To muffle the sound of the departing wheels, she buried her head, with all its wealth of dark, disheveled hair, among the pillows of her bed, and some weeks of the most utter loneliness elapsed ere she left it with the keen and ardent desire to recover health and strength, to the end that she might follow her husband over the world of waters and rejoin him. But the strength and health so necessary for the journey were long of coming back to her. She had hoped he would write her before sailing from Southampton. A single line would have satisfied the hungry cravings of her heart, but as he did not do so, she supposed there was not time. Yet the transport lay 3 days in the docks after the troops were on board. He would write by some passing ship, he had said, and one letter dated from Ascension reached her. But its cold and careless tone struck a mortal chill to the sensitive heart of Constance, and 1 or 2 terms of endearment it contained were manifestly forced and ill-expressed. He writes me thus, she muttered, with her hand pressed upon her heaving bosom. Thus, and with that woman, perhaps by his side. She consulted the map and saw how far, far away on the lonely ocean was that island speck. Months had elapsed since he had been there, so she knew that he must be in India now, and she had the regular mails to look to with confidence. Confidence at last soon faded away. Long, tender, and passionate was the letter she wrote in reply. She fondly fixed the time when she proposed to leave England and rejoin him, if he sent her the necessary remittances. But mail after mail came in without any tidings from Sydney, and she felt all the unspeakable misery of watching the postman for letters that never, ever came. Yet she never ceased to write, entreating him for answers and assuring him of unswerving affection. Slowly, heavily, and imperceptibly, a year passed. A whole year, to her now a black eternity of time. Could Sydney be dead, she asked herself with terror? But she knew that his family, who were all unaware of her existence, had never been in mourning, as they must infallibly have been in the event of such a calamity, And in her simplicity, she never thought of applying to the horse guards for information concerning him, more information than she might quite have cared to learn. Her old thoughts concerning Miss Dashwood took a strange hold of her imagination now. 100 trifles light as air came back most scalingly to memory and took coherent and tangible shapes. But a stray number of the Indian mail informed her of the marriage of Miss Dashwood and her bete noir to the Major Milton, and also that the regiment in which Sidney belonged was moving up country, a phrase to her perplexing and vague. Her funds were gone. Her friends were few and poor. Her jewels, her treasured presents, were first turned into cash, then the furniture of her pretty villa, and next the villa itself with its sweet rose garden had to be exchanged for humbler apartments in a meaner street, and ere long Constance Warren found that if she was to live, it must be by her own unaided efforts, and for 5 years she maintained a desperate struggle for existence. 5 years. A lady going to India wanted a young person as a governess and companion. To India! On her knees, Constance prayed with her application that her application might prove successful, and her prayer was heard. For out of some 100 letters from a few which were selected, the tenor of hers suited best the taste of the lady in question. She said nothing of her marriage or of her apparent desertion, but as her wedding ring, which with a fond superstition of heart she never drew from her finger, told a tale she had to pass for a widow. So in the fullness of time she found herself far away from England, and duly installed with an Anglo-Indian family in one of the stately villas of the European quarter of Calcutta, a veritable palace in the city of palaces, overlooking the esplanade before Fort William, in charge of one sickly but gentle little pale-faced girl. She had been a month there when her employer's family proposed to visit some relatives in Merriment, where she heard that Sidney's regiment was cantoned. Not sure what that word means. Cantoned must be where they're stationed.
How do you spell it?
Cantoned. Cantoned.
Yeah, it was cantoned. Yeah.
Station?
To be cantoned, just 1 second here. To be cantoned. And then, of course, AI takes and tells me, no, I'm not going to spell it that way. Cantoned means having something placed in the corners or angles, often referring to heraldry. Okay. Or changes in the corners of architecture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Should I just start there?
Yeah. By all means. I mean, we're just rolling. We're going with it. We're freestyling here. So as a verb, cantoned means to divide territory into cantons or smaller districts.
Okay. That makes sense.
Or to separate quarters.
Where he's stationed in modern times.
Or to separate quarters. So there you go. That's what canton means.
To her, it seemed as if the hand of fate was in all of this. Oh, the joy of such tidings. Someone there must be able to unravel the horrible mystery involving his fate, for by this time she had ascertained that his name was out of the corpse, but her heart suggested that he might have exchanged into another. If alive, is he worth caring for? She often asked this of herself, but thrust aside the idea and pursued with joy the long journey up country by river steamers, dock boats, and otherwise, on the Ganges to Jahangirabad, from whence they were to travel by carriages to the palace of their destination, some 50 miles distance. On the way, Constance had an addition to her charge in the person of a little boy, who, with his ayah, was going to join his parents at Merriment. This little boy was more than usually beautiful, with round and dimpled cheeks, hazel, dark hazel eyes, curly golden hair, and a sweet and winning smile. Something in the child's face or its expression attracted deeply the attention of Constance and seemed to stir some memory in her heart. Where had she seen those eyes before? She drew the boy caressingly towards her and then kissed his fair and open forehead. Her eyes fell involuntarily on a ring that secured his necktie, a mere blue ribband. It was of gold, and on it was engraven the initials C and S with a lover's knot between. Were those of herself and her husband? And the ring was one she had seen him wear daily. Constance trembled in every limb. She felt a deadly paleness overspread her face, and the room in which she sat swam round her. But on recovering her self-possession, she said, "Child, let me look at this ring." The wondering boy placed in her hand the trinket, which she had not the slightest doubt of having seen years before in London. "Who gave you this, my child?" she asked. "My papa." "Your papa? What is his name?" "Sidney." "What else?" she asked impetuously. "Sidney Warren Milton." "Thank God! But how came you to be named so? There is some mystery in this, a mystery that must soon be solved now. Where were you born, dear little Sidney?" "In Calcutta." "What is your age, child?" "Next year I shall be 7 years old." "7? How strange it is that you have the name you bear." "It is my papa's," said the boy, with a little proud irritability of manner. "Where did your papa live before he came to Calcutta?" "I don't know, in many places. Soldiers always do." "He's a soldier?" "My papa is Major Milton and lives in the cantonments of Meerut." "A little time and I shall know all," replied poor Constance, caressing the boy with great tenderness. On arriving at Meerut, however, she found herself ill, faint and feverish, so that for days she was confined to her bed, where she lay wakefully by night, watching the red fireflies flashing with the green jalousies and full of strange, wild dreams by day. She had but one keen and burning desire, to see Major Milton, and to learn from his lips the fate of her husband. On the evening of the 5th day, evening of the 10th of May, she was lying on her pillow, watching the red sunshine fade on the ruined mosques. In Abu's stately tomb, then just as a sunset gun pealed over the cantonments, the Ahaya brought her a card inscribed Major Milton, Staff Corps. "Desire the Major to come to me," said Constance in a broken voice, and trembly convulsed by emotion, for now she was on the eve of knowing all. "Here to the Ma Sahib's bedside," asked the astonished Ahaya. "Here instantly. Go, go." Endued with new strength as the woman withdrew, she sprang from her bed, put on her slippers, threw round her ample cashmere dressing robe, and seated herself in a bamboo chair, trembling in every fiber. In a mirror opposite, she could see that her face was as white as snow. The door was opened. "Major Milton," said a voice that made her tremble, and attired in undress uniform, pitch helmet in hand, her husband, looking scarcely a day older, stood gazing at her in utter bewilderment. He gave one convulsive start and then stood rooted in the spot, but no expression or glance of tenderness escaped him. His whole aspect bore the impress of terror. Years had elapsed as a dream, and they were again face to face, those two whom no man might put asunder. Softness, sorrow, and reproach faded from the face of Constance. Her broad, low forehead became stern. Her deep-set, dark eyes sparkled perilously. Her full lips became set, and her chin seemed to express more than ever resolution. "Oh, Constance, Constance," he faltered, "I know not what to say." "It may well be so, Sidney," and at the utterance of his name, her lips quivered. "So you are Major Milton, and the supposed husband of Miss Dashwood." There was a long pause, after which she said, "I ask not the cause of your most cruel desertion, but whence this name of Milton?" A property was left me, but of course, you have long since ceased to love me, Constance. You actually dare to take an upbraiding tone to me, she exclaimed. Her dark eyes flashed fire. Then, looking upward, appealing, she wailed, Oh my God, and this is the man for whom, during these bitter years, I've been eating my own heart. Pardon me, Constance. You may now learn that there is no gauge to measure the treachery of which the human heart in its weakness is capable. Yet there has been a worm in mine that has never died. She wrung her hands and then said, with something of her old softness of manner, You surely loved me once, Sidney. I did. He drew near. She recoiled from him. Then whence this cruel change? Does not someone write that we love and think we truly love, and yet find another to whom one will cling as if it required these two hearts to make a perfect whole? Most accursed sophistry. But if you have no pity, have you not fear? I have great fear, said he in a broken voice. Thus, Constance, by the love you once bore me, I beseech you to have pity, not on me, but on my little boy and his poor mother. Preserve their happiness. And sacrifice my own, she said in a hollow voice. Spare and do not expose me. My commission, my position here, neither shall be lost through me, she replied in a voice that grew more and more weak. But leave me, and the air is suffocating. The light has left my eyes. Farewell, Sidney. Kiss your child for my sake. He drew near to take her hand, but she repulsed him with a wild gesture of despair, and throwing up her arms, fell back in her seat with a gurgle in her throat, her head on one side, and her jaw fallen. Dead, quite dead, was his first exclamation, and with his terror was blended a certain selfish emotion of satisfaction and relief at his escape. Blood again flowed freely in his veins, and he was roused by the continent gurries clanging the hour of 9. Help! Help! Cried he, but no help came, and as he hurried away, the sudden din of musket shots, of shrieks and yells, announced that the great revolt had begun at Merriment, and that the expected massacre of the Europeans had commenced, and that butchery was those he loved most on earth perished, and midnight saw him, wifeless and childless, lurking in misery and alone in a mango tope on the road of Pernal. While listening to the narrative of my friend Sidney, whom I had always known as Warren rather than Milton, the clock on the mantelpiece struck 9, and he said in a broken voice, It was at this very hour, 12 months ago, that my boy and his mother were murdered by the 3rd Cavalry at the moment that Constance was dying. As he spoke, a strange white light suddenly filled one end of the smoking room, and amid it there came gradually but distinctly to view 2 figures. One was a little boy with golden hair, and the other a woman whose left arm was around him, a beautiful woman with clearly cut features, masses of dark hair curling over a low, broad forehead, lips full and handsome, with a massive chin and classic throat, the woman of the veiled picture, line for line, but to all appearances living and breathing, with a beautiful smile in her eyes, and wearing not the riding habit, but a floating, crepe-like white garment impossible to describe. There was a strange, weird brightness to her face, the transfigured brightness of great joy and greater love. Constance! Constance and my child, cried Sidney, in a voice that rose to a shriek, and like a dissolving view, the light and all he looked on, with eyes transfixed, faded away. I was aware of an excess of sensitiveness, and that my heart was beating with painful rapidity. I did not become insensible, but some time elapsed before I became aware that lights were in the room, and that several servants, whom my friend's cry had summoned in haste and alarm, were endeavoring to rouse him to consciousness from a fit that had seized him. But from that fit he never recovered. His heavy, stertorous breathing gradually grew less and less, and ere a doctor came, and he ceased to respire. His death, sudden as hers on that eventful night, but a retributive one, was declared to be apoplexy. But I knew otherwise. Since then, though the effect of the grape shot wound on my nervous system was quite passed away, I feel myself compelled to agree with the hackneyed remark of Hamlet that there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy. Oh, I did it.
Yeah, did it, kid. Look at that.
It was good.
Isn't that a good story?
Yeah, I liked it. It was dark and creepy, and it was a player.
Man was a player and ultimately ends up losing everything, doesn't he? Before he ends up losing his own life.
We call that karma, right?
I think it is. Either it's karma or it's irony or a little of both. You know, there's something about these stories. I mean, the Victorian ghost stories all have. They either have these deep morals or they have a bit of humor to them. The Nicodemus story had a little bit of weird, ironic humor to it, or they have this bit of twisted gray area where there's, or it's very much good and evil. There's good and evil there, and they very much let you know that evil never wins. In the end, evil never wins. You never do truly get away with anything. Because
that is true.
Yeah, the other side evens things out very quickly. So, yeah.
So do good things.
Do good things. That's right. Well, our final story for today in our Victorian Christmas and our ghost story here was written by an anonymous source. It's called The Ghost Chamber. This atmospheric short tale, a somewhat different kind of ghost story, first appeared anonymously in Ainsworth magazine in January of 1853. So, Jess, it's how many years ago? It would be not quite 200 years ago. So that would have been...
Yeah, like 175?
Yeah, almost 180, right? Almost 180 years ago.
Wow.
So it's kind of funny when you think about it, how many years ago this was exactly. In 1853, the state of Minnesota would have been either... I don't think we were quite a state yet, were we?
Boy,
what were we?
I'm not up on my Minnesota history.
I think it was 1856 were we a state?
You know, I'm Googling it really quick.
1857? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't... I don't know that we were a state yet in 1853. But I know this much, that it's an old story. Were we a state?
That was a long way to go to 1858. We became a state.
That's right. So we were 5 years away from statehood when this ghost story was written and put in Ainsworth magazine.
Very cool.
Yeah. So here is The Ghost Chamber. And again, we don't know who wrote it, but here it is. There, it rises before me as I write. A long, low room, wainscoted, there's that word again, and tapestried. The windows hung with yellow curtains, through which the daylight enters gorgeously, and the floor shining in black with its polished oak boardings. What strange gleams of light fall across the counterpane from the colored glass. And outside there's an old rookery, the perpetual cawing of whose inhabitants would fain persuade us that already a whisper of spring has got abroad upon the air. It has been the stateroom of the family, but I see it now as when I sat in it during the long, lonely evening, when the firelight leapt and sparkled on the hearth, and strange smiles flitting over the pictured faces looked down upon me from the walls, when sounding but invisible footsteps ran creaking along the boards, and knowledge-like a guest visited me, whispering, "The chamber is haunted." Yes, haunted, truly, but only by old spirit memories. The old people who inhabited this room have long since been gathered to their fathers, and it is now their second son who inherits this property. Their portraits hang upon the walls and look down upon us with something of a life presence still upon them. With stately carriage and hand placed within his vest, eagle eye and stern brow, the old man still seems keeping watch over his household. Opposite to him, in hat and feathers, white satin gown, low neck and arms, and all the acknowledged beauty of a past century, sits smiling his wife. There's a history connected with these portraits. I think of them in the ghost chamber, where I have been placed by my own desire, and wonder if they ever descended from their grand stateliness to the little familiarities, the sweet social endearments that twine so lovingly around the intercourse of life. There is an old judge with powdered wig, white cravat, and long waistcoat, who frowns down at me from over the mantelpiece as this question suggests itself mentally. And as I glance across at the family heiress in all the dignity of shepherdess attire, her crook seems to tremble in her hands, and at the very folds of her dress to stand upright with horror. But in the ghost chamber I still linger, haunted ever by these memories of the dead. I cannot sleep. So from between the tapestried folds of the bed hanging, I still look forward, and behold the heavy chairs cast shadows on the shining boards, and something glides in between them and the firelight, and the seats are occupied. What do I see? Nothing. I only heard the creaking of boards and rustling of garments. But is not that all sufficient? Do I not know, as plainly as my imagination tells me, that it is so? That the figure with the powdered hair, stern brow, and benevolent smile, even now loosening the cravat from his throat, is in fact the very owner of the ghost chamber? Does not the lady of the hat and feathers again sit before me? Only now she has her hair rolled back off her brow in pyramids of curls, and her stiff silk dress seems to quiver with importance. You tell me it is the wind that I hear in the chimneys, shadows from the moonlight, creakings from the old boards. Very good. We can both hold our own opinions, but I sleep. Yes, even in the old ghost chamber. And now the old family histories come sweeping like a strong tide in upon me. I see the household growing up around the old parent stock, and the eldest born, the prodigal, with his dear warm heart and ill-advised judgment. There's an old grandmother who's always supplying him with money, ever against the consent, often without the knowledge of his parents. A stern-looking old lady, she seems, with an upright carriage and a gold-headed cane. The villagers call her Madame Talbot, and bring all the grievances and party quarrels before her. She holds a small court of justice against which there's no appeal. The village urchins tremble at her anger. Her justice is summary, and she has been known to chain the offender caught stealing apples in the orchard to the bars of the gate, a kind of human scarecrow to trembling brethren. But the one weak spot in her heart is for this grandson. No one may blame him. She sees all the noble, generous points in his character. She's quite deaf and blind to his defects, so they grow up. Here is the second brother, the supplanter, wise, correct, calculating, too weak for virtue, and too cold for vice, ever stepping in between his eldest brother and his father. How the breach widens! I seem to see the crust thicken round the hearts of his kindred. They are, as it were, poisoned, alienated from him, and he is too proud to sue for that pardon he thinks should be of his right. Reckless in his expenditure, careless in his profession, yet so kind, generous, and loving, not even understanding coldness in others. Now the shadow of that second brother falls again across me. I see him taking, as it were, the servant's place in the house, being all things to please these men, or please all men, rather. Such an old-hearted head on such a young shoulder. He gives false meanings to the faults of his eldest brother, so that they stand forward in unfavorable light. He implies, suggests, wounded feelings are made rankling sores by the force of his covert insinuations, and so the breach widens. Now the eldest son has taken to himself a wife, fair, gentle, loving, but alas, he has consulted but his own pleasure, and has looked for no dowry beyond the single one of virtue. How should he be forgiven? How can he who errs against his own interest ever expect the compassion of others? And in a world where mammon is worshipped, how think to live independent? And this too must be placed against him. He must not bring his wife to his father's hearth. His hasty choice is to be visited on her, as having entered the family on false pretensions. Or pretensions, rather, on false pretensions. And the jealous pride of his wounded heart shall be accounted to him as an evil thing. No wonder that the breach widens. We see the second brother becoming everything to his father. He has all the guile of mother Esau. So plausible is he with his regrets under the surface of fraternal sorrow. So fair an aspect bears he with no foul a soul. Now he sighs in his superior righteousness over the faults of the prodigal. Now he winds himself with unseen coils into the old man's confidence. He has become, as it were, his right hand. He, the stern, proud father, is a slave to the child, and so unconscious a one that though he cannot do without him, yet he still deludes himself that he possesses ever the same dominant power of old. There comes a day, however, when the old man is struck with death. It is an awful time. The family crowd around him, weeping, wailing, and lamenting. And there he lies, helpless like a little child, unnerved, palsied, trembling in the grasp of the great destroyer. Then better thoughts, old, long, crushed affections return to him. Standing, as it were, on the verge of the grave, he sees as with different eyes. Old things are fallen off from him. All things are become new. His hand wanders toward his prodigal son, kneeling at the foot of his bed, weeping hot, burning, passionate tears. He hears the prayer of his spirit poured out for forgiveness, and resting there, he bows himself toward him, and with faltering voice blesses him aloud. He tells him that he has disinherited him, that he has bestowed all upon his brother. With feeble motion, he points toward his will. But his son, heartbroken, agonized, still kneels before him. He offers no complaint, utters no murmur. Only with choked voice he sobs forth, "Oh, let his brother keep all so that he may have his father's forgiveness." And the old man gives it to him. Solemn and slow, on the shadowy twilight come forth those words of peace. And in the falling darkness of the ghost chamber, there is only heard the strong man's sobs and that deathbed blessing. Now the room is again in stillness. The old man sleeps, and through the long night watches there is only remaining his daughter. Seated patiently by his side, she stoops to screen the lamplight from his eyes, and suddenly he calls upon her. She starts, for in his face there is an expression all unknown before. His voice is low and faint, but each word, as she catches it, seems to fall upon her ear with solemn meaning. He tells her how, laying there in the long night hours, a voice spoke to him, how men's eyes are opened at the portals of death, and how it was given to him to see that far beyond the gains and honors of life, far beyond all its wealth and pleasure, there rests still heaven's blessing on the large loving heart and liberal spirit, how all things fall off from men and death, but love still lingers. Then he spoke of how he had wronged her brother, passing through life without understanding him, putting forth the angel spirit that had been given him as a blessing. "But mark me, child," he said, and now his voice, before broken, became loud and clear. "I will yet, if God spares me, make restitution. I take you to witness of my purpose, and I lay it on you as my command to bring your brother to me with the daylight that justice may be restored." And with this, he moved upon his pillow, turning his face toward the wall, and as she thought, slept quietly. But when the morning light came in, flooding the room, the sunbeams fell full on his face and of the calm dead, and the daughter's cry of horror gathered in her all the household. There were voices of lamentation, low dirges, weeping of women, and with the sound of hushed feet, the dead passed onward to his long home. The second son inherited the property, for there was none to dispute the will. But he returned prodigal, kneeling in the ghost chamber, offered thanks to God for that his father's heart had been restored to him. And then with a softened heart and a peace of mind, and mind at peace, returned again to share the property of her who had chosen him for himself. Am I dreaming in the ghost chamber? I seem to see still the son reconciled, visiting, as he does yet, sometimes at the house of his brother, the usurper. The ghost chamber is given up to him. He sleeps better in it. He says, than elsewhere, he has always pleasant dreams here. Do not wonder, or I do not wonder at it, for I know how, when he sleeps, the spirits of the old people still watch over him. I see them in my imagination. You will not allow me sight. Putting aside the tapestried curtains, looking down upon him tenderly, the father has still his smile of benevolence, but his brow has lost all its sternness. He lays his hand upon him and blesses him, and the mother's face is irradiated with gladness. So even in my dreams, these forms fall off from me, and I wake once more in the ghost chamber, to the young day's sunshine, to the cheerful cawing of the rooks at work outside my window, and musing as I lay, let the sounds of life flood in upon me, till my heart is filled with their music, and the spirits of the ghost chamber pass from me to return again with the firelight on the black boards and the moonbeams stealing in fantastically through the stained windows. And there you go. That is the ghost chamber.
Creepy.
Yeah. Do not cast judgment during life, lest it come back on you.
Such a good lesson.
Yeah. And kind of an interesting way to end today's program. Because I'm sure.
I love it.
Yeah. I won't expound on the. I'll let you take meaning from that last story. I'll put it that way. I was going to jump on a soapbox, but I won't. I think it's an interesting story. I really do. It says so much in such a short amount of time. But it's a very interesting story. There's so many interesting stories in Victorian times.
They really are. And really, like, it all comes back to be a good human or you're going to get haunted.
Yeah. And they really did believe that the ancestors sat around and watched.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept tabs. And they, as you lived your life here, they were around. They watched in, and maybe they had a more forgiving spirit, but they watched. So even though they might have left you property, they might have left you their money, they might have left you, your bounty to live on, it was still very much their property, which is kind of creepy to think about, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to move on and live your life. And you think you're making your way, but really you're just borrowing someone's legacy. It's kind of difficult to ever get out of that shadow.
Yeah. Deep.
Yeah, it is deep. That's for sure. So that will do it for today's Christmas program, our Victorian Christmas. You wonder why now Victorian times were so deep and heavy and dark, and but that was what it was. But it's kind of fun to visit there and then come back to our world, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you may have some other things to attend to. Maybe you've got other things you want to watch. Maybe you want to watch a Charlie Brown Christmas, or maybe you want to watch The Grinch, or maybe you want to get to more traditional fare, or maybe Home Alone, or maybe you have some other things you want to watch. But at least today you had a taste of a very classic Christmas from a couple hundred years ago, which is kind of fun. Yeah, that's for sure. So just before we leave people today, let's tell people about your classic New Year that you have going on at the Palmer.
Yes, we're doing our third annual New Year's Eve or New Year's celebration, not New Year's Eve. It's on the 9th. Starting on the 9th, then we'll have art and some manifesting workshops going on, of course, a ghost hunt. And so we have a $20 discount code for you guys. If you use Friends20, you can get $20 off your ticket. And there are a few rooms left. So if you're interested, come join us.
There you go. Filling up fast. So we'll have a link in the description of this program so you can go get that ticket and go get it. Because, again, it's going to fill up. It's going to sell out. So go up there and have a great time there at the Palmer. All right. That will do it for today, folks. And it does it for the week. We are wrapped up on Christmas week. And, again, next week is anniversary week. And we've got a few surprises for you. Again, let's not imagine that the roof is going to fall in and we're going to have surprise upon surprise that will, we're not bringing back the dead for this thing or anything. But a 20-year anniversary, 20 years of an amazing program, folks. It goes a long way. So we're going to keep one foot in the past while keeping one foot firmly in the present and looking into the future. So we've still got our heads screwed on and we're still looking forward. So it will be a bit of a subdued anniversary, but a good one. And again, looking firmly forward into 2026 because we've got a lot of huge things planned for 2026. But again, we want to recognize the fact that Darkness Radio was one of the first in paranormal podcasting and still the best. So you may be reminded a lot in 2026 with some stuff coming up. So, but we do it all for you guys, and we've got some great stuff on the way for you. So, but a reminder again, if there's some stuff that you want to see or some ideas that you have, you can always email me, tim@darknessradio.com, and we live to get that stuff on the air for you or make the changes that you want to see. So we'd love to hear it, tim@darknessradio.com. Again, we wish you a very happy holiday season, whether it be Christmas, whether it be Hanukkah past or Kwanzaa or Boxing Day or whatever it is you're celebrating. We wish you a very, very happy holiday season. We will see you again next week for New Year's and for the anniversary shows. Again, be a light in someone's darkness this holiday season. Go get someone who is in your community, in your family, a neighbor, a friend, whoever it may be, who is disabled, who is elderly, who would like just some of your time today. Sit them down, grab some tea, some cookies, and spend that time with them. Or bring them along to your celebration. Go be a light in someone's darkness today. A message from your friends here at Darkness Radio. For Jessica Freeburg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much. And have a great holiday season. A Merry Christmas. We'll see you next week for the 20th anniversary celebration. This is the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.